You won't believe how a moment of love and respect turned into one of the most heated controversies in recent memory. Let me tell you, it all began with what seemed like a simple, heartfelt tribute. The world had just been shaken by the sudden and tragic death of Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the man millions knew and loved as Theo Huxtable from The Cosby Show. He was more than a TV star. He was a musician, a writer, a director, a devoted father, and a friend to many in the entertainment industry. His passing came like a storm, catching everyone off guard and leaving fans heartbroken. People everywhere were still trying to make sense of it when one of his closest friends, Eddie Griffin, stepped forward to speak. At first, it sounded like the perfect example of honoring someone's memory. Eddie shared warm words on Instagram, calling Malcolm his big little brother and describing him as a father, son, poet, musician, actor, teacher, writer, director, and warrior. Their friendship had grown years earlier when they worked together on the sitcom Malcolm and Eddie. It was clear Eddie held deep respect and love for him. But here is the shocking part. Just days after this emotional post, Eddie changed his tone completely, and what came next would leave people stunned. During one of his recent stand-up comedy shows, Eddie shocked his audience by saying he did not believe Malcolm drowned. He openly told the crowd, "I don't believe that man drowned," sending a ripple of surprise through the room. This was not just a private thought shared among friends. This was a public statement made on stage in front of paying customers and eventually the whole world through social media. Eddie hinted at conspiracy theories, pointing to what he claimed were too many different stories about what happened. This is where it gets interesting, because suddenly the focus shifted from remembering Malcolm to questioning the very nature of his death. The craziest part was that Eddie didn't stop at doubt. He used Malcolm's passing as part of his comedy material. For some, this was a step too far. Social media exploded with mixed reactions. Many accused Eddie of being disrespectful, saying it was too soon and too cruel to make light of a tragedy while the family was grieving. One fan posted, "To have an opinion is one thing, but to use him as a joke is the epitome of tasteless." Another wrote, "Very disrespectful for him to do this, especially so soon after it happened." But what makes this story different? Not everyone was angry. Some people actually supported Eddie's suspicion, claiming they too found the official story strange and inconsistent. They pointed out that there were multiple versions of events released in the days following the tragedy, and they believed something didn't add up. This division among the public only added fuel to the fire. On one side were those demanding respect for Malcolm's family and legacy, and on the other were those calling for the truth to be investigated further. Destiny took an unexpected turn. What should have been a time of mourning had now become a battlefield of opinions, theories, and emotions. And as the noise grew louder, the real question started to form. What exactly happened to Malcolm-Jamal Warner that day in Costa Rica? Let me tell you, the official story of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death sounded simple at first, but when you looked closer, the details didn't all line up. According to initial reports, Malcolm had been vacationing with his family in Costa Rica on July 20th, 2025. The first version that spread across news outlets said he drowned after being caught in a strong rip current while swimming with his daughter. Albert Leon, the chief of tourist police in the area, even stated that Malcolm had been trying to protect his daughter from the current, fighting to keep her safe until the very end. It painted a heartbreaking image of a father's final act of love. But here is the shocking part. Within hours, another version surfaced, and it told a different story. This time, Costa Rica's Judicial Investigation Agency, known as the OIJ, claimed Malcolm had been playing with his daughter near the shoreline. Then he left her safely on land and entered the water with a friend. That was when both men were pulled into deeper waters by a powerful current. The friend managed to escape, but Malcolm could not. This is where it gets interesting. Two different accounts, both from official sources, yet the details about who Malcolm was with in those final moments were not the same. And it didn't stop there. As the news spread, more conflicting details began to pop up. Some reports claimed he was alone. Others repeated that he was with his daughter. In just 2 days, nearly 10 versions of the story were circulating online, and that kind of confusion was like gasoline for the conspiracy fire Eddie Griffin had already lit. The craziest part was how quickly the public's emotions shifted. People who had been grieving suddenly started asking questions. Why couldn't the officials get the story straight? Was it a case of bad reporting, or was there something more to it? What makes the story different is how quickly a private tragedy became a public mystery. And as these questions grew louder, Eddie Griffin's comments started to look less like an isolated joke and more like a spark in a growing storm of suspicion. Meanwhile, Malcolm's friends and fans were caught in the middle. Some begged for the rumors to stop, saying the family needed peace, not speculation. Others claimed they had a right to know the truth, especially when the official accounts weren't matching up. Destiny took an unexpected turn. This was no longer just about grief. It was about trust, truth, and the uncomfortable reality that sometimes even official stories can raise more questions than they answer. And with every new rumor, the line between fact and theory became harder to see. But here is the shocking part. While the public was arguing online and news outlets kept repeating mixed details, the Warner family stayed almost completely silent. They didn't rush to clear up the confusion or address Eddie Griffin's comments directly. Instead, they focused on honoring Malcolm's life with dignity. His mother, Pamela Warner, released a short statement thanking fans for their support and asking for privacy during what she called the most painful time of her life. There was no mention of conspiracy theories, no response to the stand-up jokes, and no attempt to fight the rumors. To some, this silence was a sign of strength and grace. To others, it was another reason to wonder if there was more to the story than the public was being told. This is where it gets interesting. Eddie Griffin, despite the backlash and pleas from some fans to stop talking, didn't take back a single word. He didn't apologize, didn't soften his stance, and didn't try to explain the comedy part of it. In fact, by leaving his statement as it was, he kept the conversation alive, forcing people to either defend him or condemn him. The craziest part was how his refusal to back down made some fans start digging even deeper into the timeline of events, the location, and even the weather conditions on the day of Malcolm's death. The internet became a breeding ground for theories, some reasonable, others far-fetched, but all of them circling back to one man's suspicion voiced on stage. Meanwhile, in the entertainment industry, reactions were just as divided. Some of Malcolm's colleagues openly criticized Eddie for making light of such a fresh tragedy, saying that friendship should mean respect even in disagreement. Others quietly admitted they too found parts of the story confusing, though they stopped short of accusing anyone of hiding the truth. What makes the story different is that it was no longer just a public versus private debate. It had turned into a conversation inside the celebrity circle as well, with some choosing sides and others trying to stay out of the spotlight entirely. Destiny took an unexpected turn when the official autopsy report was released. It confirmed that Malcolm had died from accidental asphyxiation due to submersion, in other words, drowning, with no signs of foul play. For some, this put the matter to rest. For others, it was just another official statement to question. Even with the findings clear and final, the trust had already been broken for those who believed something was being covered up. And as the days passed, it became clear that the debate was not going to fade away anytime soon. Let me tell you, even after all the official statements, eyewitness accounts, and the medical examiner's confirmation, the controversy around Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death refused to die down. The authorities stood firm that this was a tragic accident caused by a powerful rip current, But Eddie Griffin's words had already planted a seed of doubt in thousands of minds. Social media kept the conversation alive, with every new post adding fuel to the fire. Some shared heartfelt memories of Malcolm, urging people to let him rest in peace. Others posted side-by-side screenshots of the conflicting reports saying, "This is why people don't believe the official story." But here is the shocking part. While most stories like this fade after the funeral, this one seemed to grow stronger. People began revisiting old interviews, old footage, and even Eddie and Malcolm's friendship on Malcolm and Eddie, looking for hidden signs that something might have been wrong. The craziest part was that every small detail, even things that had nothing to do with his passing, became clues in the eyes of conspiracy believers. It didn't matter that the OIJ and the tourist police both confirmed there was no foul play. Once suspicion took root, no amount of facts could fully erase it. This is where it gets interesting. Eddie Griffin, whether intentionally or not, had changed the way many people would remember Malcolm's passing. Instead of a story about a beloved actor who died a hero trying to protect his loved ones, it had become a mystery clouded by rumors and questions. What makes this story different is that it shows how quickly the narrative around a tragedy can shift, especially when a public figure chooses to speak out in a way that challenges the official account. In a world where one sentence can be shared millions of times in minutes, even a moment on a comedy stage can rewrite the story in the public's mind. Destiny took an unexpected turn when, instead of fading into silence, the debate became part of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's legacy. For his family and those who loved him, it was a painful reminder that in the age of instant information, mourning is rarely private. For Eddie Griffin's supporters, it was proof that questioning is necessary, even when it makes people uncomfortable. And for the rest of the world, it was a lesson in how grief, suspicion, and the hunger for truth can collide in ways that keep a story alive long after the final goodbye. In the end, the facts said one thing, the rumors said another, and the choice of what to believe was left entirely to the people watching from the outside.